Scotland needs a new formal debt solution that will help tens of thousands of normal people living and working across Scotland deal with their problem debts. Now at the moment, tens of thousands of Scots across this country have got credit cards, loans, car finance agreements, and although they maybe can't afford to pay those debts because they've become unemployed or they've lost income or they've been made redundant, the creditors are still adding interest and charges onto those debts, even where they're giving them payment breaks. Now that means that those debts are getting higher and people's worry and the stress that they're feeling is increasing. Now at the moment in Scotland, the only solution to that is to use a formal debt solution. Now that may be bankruptcy or a protected trust deed, which are quite severe options which are in forms of insolvency. Another option may be to use the debt arrangement scheme, which is a repayment solution in Scotland. Now the problem with the debt arrangement scheme is though you've got to be able to repay your debts to go into it, but in return you do get your interest and charges frozen. Now normally you would need to be able to repay your debts within 10 years. Now what this means though is if you've just recently become unemployed and made redundant and you can't afford to pay anything towards the debts, you cannot enter into the debt arrangement scheme. It gives you no protection. Now in England and Wales next year, the UK government is going to introduce a scheme called Breathing Space, and it begins on May the 4th. Now Breathing Space will allow people, even those that can't afford to pay anything, to enter into a temporary scheme that will allow interest and charges to be frozen. In Scotland, there is no such similar scheme. Now what is possible, however, is under the current rules and regulations in relation to the debt arrangement scheme, the Scottish Government can change their policy and widen access to the scheme just now. Not next month, not next year, now. And it only takes a policy change by the Scottish Government. And what this would allow people to do is enter into the debt arrangement scheme now where they can only maybe pay a small amount or in actual fact cannot pay anything. And they would call it a low but grow debt arrangement scheme. So the idea is you go into the scheme now, get the protections with interest and charges are frozen, and over a period of time, although you maybe can't pay anything, you can only pay a small amount, that maybe within the next 12 months, if you can increase payments, then your scheme will be successful. So what the Scottish Government need to do just now is take this opportunity to increase access to the scheme just now and make it far more accessible for people to get protection from their creditors.